Good evening. The Dolores County Broadcasting Network presents the DCTV 4-H Evening News Program for February 8th, 2012, with news anchors Arian and Salem, meteorologist Andrew, camera people Myra and Stephen, video engineer and producer Russell, sound engineer Dan, teleprompter and prompter Mary Ann, and this is news director Francisco. And now the news.
The 4-H Evening News and Weather Report, starring our famous Dove Creek students. We would like you to know that you can now buy a sponsorship for DCTV that will help keep our kids show on the air. To buy one of these sponsorships, just call 970-677-4119. Thank you. This is Arian reporting for DCTV. The following story is from the New York Times. Global warming and climate change. Global warming has become perhaps the most complicated issue facing world leaders. Warnings from the scientific community are becoming louder, as an increasing body of science points to rising dangers from the ongoing buildup of human-related greenhouse gases produced mainly by the burning of fossil fuels and forests. Global emissions of carbon dioxide jumped by the largest amount on record in 2010, upending the notion that the brief decline during the recession might persist through the recovery. Emissions rose 5.9% in 2010, according to an analysis by the Global Carbon Project, an international collaboration of scientists. The increase solidified a trend of ever-rising emissions that scientists fear will make it difficult, if not impossible, to forestall severe climate change in coming decades. However, the technological, economic, and political issues that have to be resolved before a concerted worldwide effort to reduce emissions can begin have gotten no simpler, particularly in the face of a global economic slowdown. For almost 2 decades, the United Nations has sponsored global talks, now known as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, an international treaty signed by 194 countries in 1992 to cooperatively discuss global climate change and its impact. The conferences operate on the principle of consensus, meaning that any of the participating nations can hold up an agreement. In recent years, the meetings have often ended in disillusionment. The conflicts and controversies discussed are monotonously familiar: the differing obligations of industrialized and developing nations, the question of who will pay to help poor nations adapt, the urgency of protecting tropical forests, and the need to rapidly develop and deploy clean energy technology. The negotiating process itself has been under fire from some quarters, including the poorest nations who believe that their needs are being neglected in the fight among the major economic powers. Criticism has also come from a relatively small but vocal band of climate change skeptics, many of them sitting members of the United States Congress, who doubt the existence of human influence on the climate and ridicule international effort to deal with it. And now I give you Salem.
Hello, my name is Salem, and I will be giving you the story from the CNN network. And now I will be giving you Andrew.
Hello, my name is Andrew, and I'll be giving you the big map. Monday, mostly cloudy, high 41, low 19. Now I'll be giving you this week's CO2 numbers. The CO2 concentration in the atmosphere is one of the principal indicators of climate change. The higher the number, the warmer our climate will become. We want to thank Dr. Peter Tanz of the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration and Michael McGee of the CO2 Now website for this information. The week of January 29th, 2012, 392 parts per million. CO2 last year, 392 parts per million. CO2 10 years ago, 372 parts per million. CO2 50 years ago, 318 parts per million. In the last 50 years, the CO2 has risen 71.7 ppm. Up until the last 150 years, CO2 climbed at a rate of only 2 ppm per 100 years. This past week, the CO2 has gone back up almost 1/2 point. If everyone can keep their auto use down and lower their use of fossil fuels as much as possible, it will all help. There are 311 million people in the U.S. according to the last census. So, if everyone drove just 1 mile less a week and lowered the thermostat just 1 degree, it would really add up.
That's the end of today's DCTV 4-H news program. This is News Director Francisco saying good night and thank you for watching.